And
maybe I gotta go back in. There we go. And just for anyone listening, defamatory, harassing, obscene, or racist content is prohibited.
yeah, it's
Please be respectful when participating in the live show.
respectful.
By using the call-in feature, you understand that your voice may be recorded and published by the host. And I will add to that, certainly will be published.
Yeah, we're not going to edit anything else.
Yeah.
Probably, I guess.
No, we're not. AI will. No.
AI, well, yeah.
AI does all our editing now. No. Okay, hang on. Let's
doesn't do all our editing. Don't say that.
I'm just kidding. Okay, so volume's up on my phone. And am I hearing something from my phone? Yeah, okay, it's coming through.
Yep. Does that sound? Yep, microphone, line. Speakers is line.
It's working.
It's working. Sounds good. Sounds like it's the proper microphone.
Right on.
It doesn't sound like too much echo. Now we just sort of just chill for a minute.
We're going to wait a few minutes
as we
let the spatial sound
prepare. I wish there was a way that we could always have our music set on high volume. Mm-hmm. In the live, you can set the music for low, mid, or high, presumably because some people might want to have music playing sort of like lower underneath. Yeah. But since our music is literally just the introduction, we play it at high. But I have to hit play before I can set the volume.
Really?
And then I have to pause it very quickly. Otherwise, when I start it again, once I switched it to high, it'll actually sort of cut off the beginning a little bit because it started playing the beginning, which I don't love.
Yeah, there's got to be some kind of like
it doesn't
preferences or something that you can.
Maybe I've never seen that, but
I don't know how. My only experience with Podbean is being in the lobby.
Well, let me just say the dashboard is.
It's awesome. We love Podbean.
We do love Podbean.
If you're listening from Podbean, we love you.
Three tiers for Podbean. Quiet.
Is it on medium or is it on low?
I don't think I can set the volume of the audio effects.
No.
I wonder if I need to set the volume of... No, that's all the way up. Let's try another sound effect. What happens if we do laughter? Sounds like someone...
It's a pretty tepid room.
It sounds like someone shuffling their feet.
That's not really a hot show.
No.
That laugh track.
Hopefully the music is louder. And maybe it's hard to tell if it's not loud enough or if our mix is maybe not loud enough.
Yeah.
That it's going out just fine. What happens if I turn on sound monitoring? You'll be able to hear your own voice in your headphones after.
It's real echoey. Okay.
That's what I was thinking for a second. But it's not too bad, actually. Booing louder. All right, let's try the booing. It's pretty loud on the phone.
It sounds similar to our voice.
Yeah. But it's quiet in the headphones.
Yeah.
So
it's just
although that probably means is there a monitor volume on this?
Output volume. Oh, there is a mix.
There we go. Okay, and that didn't affect our voices.
No,
good.
That just brings more of the output in. So
that's good because that's probably would have impacted if we have callers. We wouldn't have heard them as well either.
Exactly.
Jesus Christ. There we go.
Oh, that's better.
Now we
it's almost too. I'm gonna turn it down. All right. Oh, that's it. I thought it was really going to kick something.
And the winner is you, the listener,
for being here
and
live.
It's called horror. Ooh, spooky.
It's chilling.
Ooh.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Welcome to an extra spooky episode.
Yeah.
Magic spell.
Okay.
And creepy laugh.
Wipeout.
10, 9, 8, 7,
What happens at the
6,
end?
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Don't like.
Hmm.
Well, that sounds like someone's buzzing in on a question. Oh, there we go.
Okay.
Punchline. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's, oh, we've got a beep and a whistle. There we go. Okay. Going to wait a couple more minutes? What do you think?
We can, yeah.
It's 3:02.
3:02. We can see if we can figure out the music volume.
You want me to start playing it? Because
Is it queued up or?
It is.
Okay.
And I think like there's no, and the problem is it's like player pause, not player stop. So if I were to start playing it now,
and it's going to cut off. But can you rewind it?
Well, I have looping turned off, so I should be able to play it through, let it stop, and I can play it again. Which maybe
is this loud now?
Yeah, that's fine. It sounds pretty good. So maybe that's the thing to do.
Let it play through twice.
Let it through. Yeah, play it through once before we go live. Because there's a couple of setting things I have to turn up high, and then I also have to turn off repeat. Because there was many lives where I forget to turn off repeat, and then
just
we get to this,
going
and we get into the show, and then it starts over again. Yeah, now it's just stopped, and we can play again. All right.
Okay. So we're all
set.
Yeah.
We're all ready to roll. I'm going to write the words, the chocolate war.
Oh, you're going to take more notes.
Well, we'll see. Mostly it'll depend on if there's any sort of like callers who want to bring up a certain point. I might jot it down so I don't have to cut them off immediately. Or if you make a certain point, I don't have to cut you off.
Sounds good.
My memory is maybe not what it once was.
Hear you on that.
I had a dream last night where I was just freaking out about death.
Oh.
Just really
struggling with your own mortality, or just
more just the concept of the complete cessation of experience.
Mm-hmm.
Right, that sort of existential concept of what is it like to experience nothing at all.
Yeah.
And I was freaking out and either like crying or just wanting to cry.
Really, hitting you hard.
It did, which is weird because it almost feels like it's a different me. Because I almost feel like in the last 6 months to a year, because it used to be something I thought about a fair amount, was not super cool with. But I feel like, I mean, I wouldn't say I'm super cool with it still, but like I've come to terms with it, I guess.
Like death itself, or no experience, the infinite void, or whatever you want to call it, like what comes after.
Well, that nothing does.
Yeah.
Which is my personal take on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm probably not going to care that much because there'll be nothing.
Yeah, right. Exactly. That's the thing.
It's not going to affect me too much.
Right.
At that point is my thought on it. But
it's one thing to kind of say that logically.
Yeah,
and it's another thing to kind of conceptualize what that is, because like my brain wants to figure out what it will feel like for that to happen. But the point is you don't feel anything.
That's right. Yeah.
It's very hard to wrap your head around that when all your brain knows is experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
we should try a sensory deprivation tank.
I don't know. I saw the movie Altered States. Yeah. It doesn't go well for that guy.
It doesn't go well.
Have you seen that?
Yeah. A long time ago, though. I can't really remember too much of it.
I think I watched it again last year. It was on the Criterion channel. And it was, because
I know it gets weird, but
it feels like it was, I remember watching it on TV at like the 80s with my mom or something. And it gets very weird. But I enjoyed watching it again.
I think I have it on DVD somewhere.
Really?
Like, well, I don't know. The DVDs get lost, but if we have that box somewhere, then we had it on DVD.
Interesting.
A long time ago.
I just bought, speaking of DVDs, I bought Nightmare on Elm Street in 4K yesterday.
Yeah.
$15 at Walmart.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. DVDs though. I mean, we don't really get them out. They're just kind of in a box in storage nowadays.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I'm a little bit surprised that like there are still stores selling like just regular DVDs, like new movies, like that there's still people who don't even have like a Blu-ray player.
Yeah. I mean, it happens.
I mean, obviously it does.
Yeah.
And I guess like it's not quite the same as still having like VHS tapes.
I still have VHS tapes.
Well, yeah, but nobody's selling VHS tapes. Like
that's true.
I think I recently discovered in a box my VHS double tape of Titanic.
Oh,
because it wouldn't have fit on one tape.
No, that was a double set. Yeah, you bet. I still have a VCR somewhere. It's
really?
In a box or a bin somewhere for sure.
Pretty sure I do not have.
Who knows if it even still works because it's just been sitting in a bin. So
wow.
But yeah, if ever I feel, because I have like a set of Bruce Lee VHS tapes of like his actual like first English movies. Where he like, he fights like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Chuck Norris,
right.
Like the Chinese Connection and like Enter the Dragon, all that stuff. So yeah, that's my VHS legacy. So I'm like, if I ever want to watch those, I need a VCR.
Absolutely.
That I'll have to find as well.
I'm sure that some of those are probably on 4K by now. Like,
I'm sure it's all.
Yeah. Well, not everything necessarily goes to 4K. Depends on how much of a demand there is for it, and
I would imagine these
Bruce Lee. I think there's enough collectability.
Find it out there.
There would be a 4K of that.
Yeah, but I like the VHS because they're like original. I think they're from the 60s or 70s. I don't know. Whenever they switched to VHS over Beta, somewhere in there.
Yeah, Beta never got very big. We had we didn't have it when I was a kid. My parents rented this thing that was movies were basically on a record.
Oh, like Laserdisc?
No, it was prior to Laserdisc. Oh. It was more of an actual vinyl record. And it came in like a very thin kind of like case.
Yeah.
And it would slide into the front of the player like a VCR would. And then it would like suck out the record thing. And then you could pull the case back out. And I think movies generally were you had to flip the record partway through because it didn't hold the whole thing on one side. But that was prior to, or just sort of like there was certain overlap with VHS.
Okay.
VHS probably took over in part because you could do it all without having to flip.
And,
but yeah, I remember that was our first sort of, they rented that from some sort of video rental place in Williams Lake before VCRs were a thing.
Crazy.
But not before they were a thing, probably before they were common.
Yeah.
All right, it's almost 3:10. Shall we?
You want to get going?
Shall we get going? Okay. Hey, welcome.
Hello.
To When Bad Things Happen to Good People, a podcast about censorship and the arts. My name is Todd Sullivan. Joining me, as always, is Peter Rahman.
Hello, hello.
Today we're live, and we are going to share our final thoughts on the novel "The Chocolate War" by Robert Cormier. I don't know what that weird noise is, and I think it always happens when we're live. And it
sounded like that other sound effect.
It did, and it didn't sound like it the first time we played through this song, did it? I didn't hear that. That's so weird.
It's only if we're live.
It's only if we've actually started the episode.
Yeah.
The Podbean live platform is sentient and can tell when we're just fucking around
versus when
we're actually trying to accomplish something, and then it sneaks in a weird sound effect.
So you heard it here first. The singularity's already happened.
The singularity has already happened here live. Is there any good band book about the singularity that we could?
I don't know. Yeah. We should look into that.
Today,
so that's kind of an interesting question. Maybe we could talk about that later on. Is if there is a singularity, would such a program start getting rid of books that had dangerous thoughts on free speech and rebellion and things like that?
In general,
certainly in digital print, but
in like books in general, or just books specifically about like fighting back against AI or
maybe all. I mean, when you
Right.
read books about kind of like future dystopian kind of societies, right? Books and things that are related to free speech or free thought are often the first things that tend to go. So I wonder if AI would, especially once it gobbles up all the information in the world, start suppressing it.
I wonder too, because it depends on how you relate to those stories. Because I feel like, for example, we covered Brave New World, some time ago, and I feel like there's maybe a way to read that book, because there was stuff in that book where I was like, this is actually pretty cool.
Yeah,
like this perfume, like
the
perfume
cologne
tabs,
tab,
the cologne tabs are pretty wild.
Yeah, the little personal helicopters.
The some of the notions around like the way they were treating eugenics wasn't terrible.
I mean, a little dicey, but
like the question is whether or not, like, how would AI react to those stories, especially if we never necessarily
say what's good or bad.
Yeah. Like,
interesting.
Maybe I don't know. Yeah, AI is.
All right, I guess we just got to wait for
as a rule. I think our position on bad things happen to good people is that AI isn't super great. We're trying to avoid using AI too much. Full disclosure, we do have a subscription to Podbean AI. We're only really utilizing that for a couple of things. One is there's a noise cancellation and volume increase that balances out the levels a little bit better, so it's something I don't have to fiddle with in post. And then also it will delete little pauses, and just sort of tightens up the episode by 3-4 minutes. And that's, I mean, I don't mind that. That's like busy work that I don't want to do when I'm editing.
And that's not AI so much as just kind of like automated tools.
Exactly. So that sort of AI I'm cool with, but I don't know that I would like let AI actually do a full edit of the episode where it decides what we keep and what we don't keep. Although I'm sure that,
because I think everything we say is super important.
Important. Yeah. Exactly.
Don't want to cut anything out.
No, listen to every word we say.
All right. Well, I'm sorry for taking us on a weird tangent right off the get-go. Let's talk about what we're actually going to talk about.
The Chocolate War. What year did this come out?
Oh, 70s?
70 something, 74?
Original copyright is 74.
Yeah. By Robert Cormier.
Yeah.
Or we've never completely, I don't think, landed on the proper pronunciation, but we're going to go
Cormier.
With Cormier. According to Wikipedia, it has been embroiled in censorship controversies and appeared as third on the American Library Association's list of the top 100 banned/challenged books.
It's pretty good.
In 2000 to 2009. A sequel was published in 1985 called Beyond the Chocolate War. I did read a little bit about Beyond the Chocolate War, because if you listen to our previous episode where we mentioned it, I said that I wasn't sure if it was like an immediate sequel, if it was maybe further down the line with different students. It is apparently like immediately after, kind of picking up almost the next day, where Jerry is like he's in the hospital from the massive beating he had at the end of the Chocolate War. Spoiler alert.
Mm-hmm.
Also, there will be spoilers because we're talking about the whole book, guys.
Well, we've already talked about it.
We've already talked. Well, I mean, if you may have missed it.
Yeah, if you haven't listened, I guess we'll re-spoil everything here today.
Exactly. The Chocolate War was frequently banned and challenged in the United States over concerns about the book's sexual content, offensive language, religious viewpoint, and violence. The book landed on the list on the top 10 most banned and challenged books in 2001 at number 3, 2002 at number 3, 2004 at number 1.
Ooh.
2005 at number 4, 2006 at number 10, 2007 back up to number 2, 2009 at number 10, as well as the top 100 books from 2000 to 2009. When the book reached the number 1 spot in 2004, it marked the first time in 5 years in which the Harry Potter series did not top the list.
Wow. Dethroned Harry
J.K.
Potter?
Rowling dethroned by a 1974 book about chocolate. Take that.
That is a true underdog story. I'm happy that we're here talking about a championship book. when it comes to being banned.
Yeah.
Wow, number one, hey? Whew.
And I think it was directed by the film adaptation, which you saw prior to this.
Yeah.
I did not. But I think this always struck me as really weird. I guess this guy just ended up going into a directorial career, but he starred as Arnie Cunningham in the adaptation of Stephen King's Christine.
Oh.
He's the main character, and then he went on to direct some films, like The Chocolate War.
Well,
also,
we'll get into my opinion of the film later. But,
okay. So how do we want to start? Do we want to? I know one of the things we talked about doing is going through the discussion suggestions at the back of the book,
which I did not read.
No, neither did I. But I thought it was cool that they were here. I thought it might make for an interesting stepping off point. I guess let's quickly go over what this book is about.
Yeah. Just recap it here.
So it's set in a private Catholic school.
Yeah.
In a kind of a smallish American.
It gives me like New England type vibes. You know? Yeah.
And that might be in my mind. I feel like as far as like writing style goes, Robert Cormier has like kind of similarities to Stephen King.
Mm-hmm.
Just has a tendency to like throw characters into the story randomly. Characters are pretty well defined pretty quickly.
And then we might never see them again.
We might never see them again. And also just sort of a very casual, conversational kind of writing style.
Yes.
So, of course, Stephen King makes me think of Maine, which does make me think of New England for this book.
Yeah.
Every year, this school has a chocolate sale that students are encouraged to participate in.
We should have done some air quotes around
we
that.
Should have.
Encouraged.
Because it's basically implied that students have to. But implied.
Well, heavily implied.
Heavily implied.
I mean,
but
the implication is if you don't do it, you're not a true supporter of the school. And,
yeah.
You know, you're not helping out the Trinity family, and you're kind of a anti-school spirit and all that kind of stuff, right?
And then there's this group though of sort of like the school.
It's
bullies,
like a secret society, but of bullies. It's kind of weird.
That's kind of running the school, or at least some of the students.
Yeah, it's. I mean, really controlling the student body in a way that, they kind of describe themselves as kind of keeping the population in control, right?
Yeah.
And keeping the school functioning properly, because a lot of other Catholic private schools, I think it's implied that they're closing down or they're in trouble at this time in the book. And Trinity is not, partly, Vigils tooting their own horns here, but partly because the Vigils help kind of maintain order across the student body.
And they give students these projects. Assignments, right? Sorry.
Yeah.
Which are essentially little semi-destructive, semi-disruptive.
Yeah, they're kind
missions.
of like pranks almost.
Kind of.
Like, yeah.
But they seem to be intended to kind of lightly push against
authority.
Yeah. But not enough to really do too much damage. And in sort of the central assignment of the book is Jerry sort of being the primary protagonist.
Yeah.
He's told, don't sell the chocolates.
Yes. And Jerry
for 10 days.
He's a freshman.
He's a
as
freshman.
Well, so he's new to the school.
Now, the chocolate situation in this particular year is a little bit different because the vice headmaster has arranged to buy a bunch of discounted Mother's Day chocolates. And he's bought like 20,000 of them.
So, Mother's Day obviously is typically in May.
Yeah.
Start of the school year is September. So these have been sitting around for a while.
Yeah. So they have twice as many chocolates to sell. And also, because of the cost of them, they have to sell them for twice as much money.
That's right.
So there is some pressure for these sales to hit that target level, and it's going to take some extra work. But at least at the start, everyone is mostly doing what they can. Some kids
Yeah.
feel the pressure of having to do more, but they're trying.
Yeah. We see some characters that are struggling because they're not salespeople or whatever,
Yeah.
or some people using the money for other things.
Other things,
you know,
borrowing
yeah,
it,
borrowing,
intending to
yes,
pay
yes,
it back
yes.
once they get their allowance
That's
or
right.
whatever. And so Jerry is given the assignment to refuse to sell the chocolates for 10 days, and then he's supposed to start.
That's right.
But he finds himself kind of enjoying, I don't want to say enjoying, but there's
Well, he has this internal dilemma that's happening with him. So his mother has died
Yeah.
about a year ago, I believe, something like that. It's just him and his father.
we doesn't
and
really see a lot.
yeah, his father's a pharmacist who works late hours,
Yeah.
but his father is like this stereotypical dead inside adult figure in the young, young adult type of literary framework. And so he's kind of alone in a sense, and he is wondering if he's missing out on life. He actually gets confronted by kind
That's
of a
right.
hippie
That's right.
girl on the street while he's waiting for the bus, and she's saying, that you're missing out on life. What
You're
does she
like
call him?
Like a middle-aged 16-year-old or something like
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
And so this has kind of got him spiraling a little bit about what he's doing with his life and is he missing out.
And on top of that,
Yeah,
he has a poster
yeah.
in his locker, which I think that he said that he had just kind of grabbed without any sort of thought.
Well, something spoke to him in it,
Yeah.
and so he decided to keep this poster.
But it's only sort of in the course of this book that he begins to sort of look at the message on the poster and really sort
Yeah.
of reflect on it. And that message is, do I dare disturb the universe?
Yeah.
Which is, if you were to say that this book had a central kind of question that it's asking, it's that question.
Yeah.
And in this case, when the 10 days are up, he's like, what if I just continue not to sell chocolates? Because
Yeah.
presumably the way it's presented by the school, this is optional.
Yep.
Do I dare? And
Yeah.
in doing so, what does that do to the universe?
Yeah.
And one of the things it starts to do is it kind of spreads this, what would you call it?
A bit of a discontent with the system in the student body. Right?
Yeah, and a willingness to also disrupt.
That's right. Yeah.
So you start finding more and more students, their sales begin to dwindle.
That's right.
And they're no longer seeming to be en route to achieving those sales goals.
Yeah.
Which is going to be bad for that vice headmaster because
he's potentially bitten off a little bit more than he can chew in his
he may have
school budgets.
He may have improperly acquired the money for these
Yeah.
chocolates and may be in trouble if they don't get sold.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's sort of the central question, the central issue.
Yeah.
By the end of it, what's the name of the secret society again?
The Vigils.
The Vigils. Thank you.
Yeah.
The Vigils have stepped up at kind of the pushing of the school, because the school, well, more specifically that vice headmaster, had reached out to the Vigils to help in this.
Yeah.
And
which is kind of like a never before seen thing at the school, where
because
the authority has actually acknowledged the secret society and come out and directly asked or communicated with them. So,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so they basically make sure that the sales get done. They also make sure that everybody else except for Jerry, even if the kids didn't actually sell them, that they get credit.
Yes.
For selling those chocolates.
Yeah, so each student has a quota of 50 chocolates. Yeah. And so kids that haven't even sold anything, that all of a sudden they're getting credits of meeting their quota or that kind of thing, as the Vigils work their magic to make sure the sale is a success.
Mm-hmm. So that leaves Jerry as literally the only one who's not. He's the outsider.
Yeah.
And so that takes us to sort of the concluding moments of the story, where the leader of the Vigils, what's his name? I've already lost every character's name.
He's not the leader technically.
No, you're right. The second in command of the Vigils.
Yeah, he's the assigner. The brains behind the
brains.
operation, Archie.
Yeah. He sets up a big assembly at the field.
Yeah. sort of out of the eye of
Yeah,
the authority,
exactly.
but not really.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that.
Where Jerry and
Emil Janza
are going to essentially fight. And
there's it's an interesting fight that Archie sets up, because it's supposed to be kids buy a ticket for a raffle for the remaining 50 chocolates.
Yeah.
So the 50 chocolates that Jerry was supposed to have sold
that
but
he didn't. Yeah.
So very symbolic there. And they buy a ticket and they get to write a blow that gets delivered in
And
this
who
fight,
delivers it.
and who delivers it. So they're cleaning up money wise on this this thing, but yeah, the two contestants in the ring here are
but it's meant to be designed, I think, to essentially push Jerry back down again.
Yeah.
By having the entire student body
kind of work against
basically
him.
say, we don't agree with you disturbing the universe.
Yeah.
So that's sort of the core of the book.
Yeah.
Sort of the basic story. Let's start through some of these questions.
Yeah.
Question 1. The first sentence of this book is, they murdered him.
Mm-hmm.
In what ways does this short sentence apply to the book as a whole? Who is murdered metaphorically in the book? By whom?
Yeah.
Sure seems like Jerry.
Yeah, I mean, Jerry gets murdered literally on the football field.
Literally on the football field.
Gets,
also literally at the end, not actually murdered, but like he gets the crap beaten out of him at the end as well.
Yeah.
And then just kind of metaphorically murdered, more metaphorically throughout the rest of the book.
Yeah.
As the students are
turning against
him. Yeah. Although not initially. Initially, the students are supporting and are,
There's a few, yeah. When he first goes past the end of the assignment, there's some students that start to go, hey, maybe this Jerry's onto something. Maybe I'm going to stop, right?
Yeah.
But the Vigils quickly murder that little
Exactly.
spark of rebellion. Yeah. So metaphorically, Jerry gets murdered a bunch.
Yeah. Question 2. There are no main female characters in this book, partly because Trinity is a boys' school. Yet the Trinity boys often discuss girls. Jerry wishes he could talk to the girl near the bus stop. Janza watches girls as they walk by, and Archie won't let anyone touch him except certain girls. What functions do you think girls have in the novel?
Well, that's interesting because, yeah, I mean, we don't have really any female characters aside from we have one side character who we kind of hear a bit about his girlfriend and
that's right,
the boob touching.
Yeah.
And then the one
girl at the
female
bus,
character at the bus stop,
who I think is the only one that has any lines of dialogue that actually appear in the book.
No, sorry, there is a girl that Jerry does call on the phone.
That's the one at the bus stop.
No, the one that there's the hippie girl that kind of accosts Jerry.
Yeah.
She kind of kicks off Jerry's
you're right. Sorry,
turmoil.
I forgot about that.
But
one.
Jerry also does kind of attempt to shoot his shot with the
that's right
with the girl
that's the one
that
I
he
meant
rides
as far as
the
bus
bus
stop.
with. Yeah, and so she has some dialogue as well. But I mean, really, I think the function of girls in the book are a bit of a foil for the guys.
Mm-hmm.
They're a bit of this unattainable kind of distant prize, so to speak, that they're pining after, as well as kind of the inciting action, right? This hippie girl, right, speaking to Jerry that way, I don't think would have had the same effect if it was some dude on him, right? And then making him kind of start examining his life in that way. So I think, more of that kind of inciting kind of action, as well as that kind of distant, thing that they're striving for, or obsessing about.
Yeah.
I think as well. I mean, this is a book about teenage boys
and teenage masculinity.
Yeah. Right. So how does that kind of come out? A lot of it is obsessing about girls, especially given this book is from the 70s. That was the talk in your high schools, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Talking about girls and
the perspective on girls, at least from the boys' perspective, which all of this book is told through, is very kind of
heteronormative,
and it's very shallow.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. They're looking at attractive girls. They're staring at their asses. At one point, Jerry is like trying to sneak a peek at a Playboy magazine. Yeah. The girls don't have any sort of interior life in this book. They're just,
even when Jerry calls the girl that rides the bus with him,
He doesn't know anything about her.
Yeah, he
just that
doesn't
she's
know,
pretty.
just that she's pretty, right?
And
It's
he
all
caught her name
superficial.
off of the side of her textbook.
I think that's actually a neat little scene in the book, because he quickly figures out that he's actually being a big creep by calling this girl out of the blue and trying to, whatever he was trying to do in terms of approaching her. He kind of quickly realizes, like, oh man, I'm kind of being a bit of a creep here.
That fantasy of, like, if I just walk up to a girl and I say the right thing, she's gonna fall for me.
Yeah, exactly.
How could she not?
Yeah.
Question 3. Why do you think Archie is repulsed by human sweat? What do you think this says about him as a person? I think, like, Archie seems to me to be someone who thinks his way through problems.
Yes.
Certainly. Does not enjoy having to be physical.
That's right. Yep.
And sweat is really just that's the result of being physical.
That's right. Yeah.
And I think, whether or not it's that he doesn't want to experience it, or if he has a certain disgust with people who do have to be physical, I think it's related to that, is my take.
Yeah, I mean, he's certainly a very more cerebral person, right?
Yeah.
All the pleasure that he takes in life is manipulating people, right? Like mentally.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that, like, the physical expression of, activity or what have you, right? Like, it's just not attuned to what he derives any pleasure from, right?
Which is interesting that he's managed to sort of climb the high school hierarchy as high as he did, because football specifically seems to be very, very important.
Football and boxing, yeah,
right,
like
to the school.
The two big things in the school are physical activities.
Yeah. Archie's greatest strength is in exploiting other people's weakness. Why do you think he does this? Why do you think he needs to manipulate every situation?
Well, I mean, just talking about how he derives pleasure. Right?
Yeah.
It's exerting power and control. So for him, he has this, I think, view of himself as, the smartest guy in the room, the guy that, we see early on, even in chapter 2, right? How he says, he struggles a little bit coming up with some of the assignments, and he has this internal thought of, like, they don't know how much pressure and how much ingenuity or whatever it is that it takes to do all this. He's the kind of guy who we talked about, he doesn't like the physicality, right? He's cerebral. It's all about the mind and controlling others' minds. And I think for him, the way that he has to interact with other people is through manipulating them.
Yeah.
That's kind of the only way he knows, because that's his whole kind of purpose in life, is to be the best mentally, right? To be able to think or talk his way out of kind of any situation.
And I think too, and I don't know if this is extrapolating beyond, what the book necessarily wants us to, but I do feel like it might speak to what his home life is like, because we never really see anybody's home life except Jerry's. Yeah. But his character as someone who, manipulates and likes to be in control does feel very much like a guy who would be out of control
at home,
or like forced to be in control at home. Like probably a very sort of
iron fist
dynamic, kind of situation. Do what you're told. Everything's like you have no control over anything. And I don't know whether or not we're supposed to necessarily draw that conclusion, but it does create, I think, kind of, if you think about it, an interesting dichotomy with Jerry's home life.
Mm-hmm.
Discuss the significance of the title. Why is it a chocolate war?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's pretty
self-explanatory. I mean, we have Jerry battling against the Vigils, right? We have physical confrontation that is the climax of the book. We have a lot of things that point to fighting and battling and that kind of stuff. And because it's kind of protracted throughout the book, I think that's where we get more of a sense of it's really a war, right? There's multiple different fights and battles that are happening throughout all around this chocolate sale.
The course of the war changes over the course of the book, right? At first, it's sort of, Jerry kind of being the first soldier in kind of an insurrection against the authorities. And then he does get some support from other students who stop selling chocolates. But then when the people in power start pushing back, it ends up sort of quashing the uprising. But
that
Jerry,
goes away pretty quick. And it's
Jerry
just Jerry
ultimately
on his own.
refuses to give up.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think Jerry decides not to sell the chocolates even after his assignment is over? Have you ever dared to disturb the universe? And what happened?
I mean, a question that kind of answers itself in the middle of the question is a little bit.
Yeah, right.
We already kind of talked about this at the start of the episode here. But yeah, I mean, that question of do I dare disturb the universe is, I think, combined with the point where he's at in his life, seeing his father just kind of going through the motions, not really living life. And then being accosted at the bus station going like, hey man, are you already an old man living a teenager's life? Like, is your life already set for you? I think all of that is really what kind of prompts Jerry to go, you know what, I'm going to do something different. I'm going to see if I can disturb the universe.
Yeah.
I dare. Right.
And this is, I think I'm going to take this opportunity to sort of to mention how I'm a little bit surprised at how commonly banned this book is, because I feel like the sort of people that are normally banning books might embrace what I feel is like the answer to the question of dare I disturb the universe in this book, because the answer this book provides, the answer that Jerry even literally gives is fuck no.
Yeah, don't disturb the universe.
You're gonna get the shit beat out of you.
Yeah. Whether physically, emotionally, like the whole system will beat you down. So don't do it.
And I feel like that's something that like the powers that be would like to spread. Don't disturb the universe. Don't disturb what we've got going on.
Look what happens, right?
You know,
nothing good comes of disturbing the universe. That is the message.
It seems like if you have enough sexual innuendo in your book anyway, people will be like, yeah,
no, it's not. It's too much.
It's too much. Even if maybe other than that, they would have necessarily embraced the meaning.
That's right. Yeah.
So that was surprising.
What about you, Todd? Have you ever dared disturb the universe?
I probably. I mean, I don't know.
I like how it's uncertain. I mean, maybe. I don't know.
I don't know that I would necessarily. I mean, not in big ways, but I guess in its own way, this isn't a very big disruption of the universe either. No. Anytime I see someone post something stupid on Facebook, but like a lot of stupid things on Facebook have a lot of support.
Yeah.
So like anytime I see someone being, transphobic or, hateful or anti-vax or any of this sort of stuff, I'm trying to be better about it now because it doesn't ever really accomplish anything. But it was, to an extent, I guess, my attempt to disturb the universe by pushing back against those sorts of things. That's probably, to an extent, this podcast is maybe about disturbing the universe. By talking about the books that people don't want you reading.
Exactly.
I think as a person, I find myself someone who enjoys the concept and the possibility of disturbing the universe.
Yeah. I like that too. I will say that I don't think I've ever tried to disturb the universe in any big or substantial way.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
But yeah, certainly there's little things of, pushing back or standing up to something, right? We see there's a scene in this book, and I think it's been parodied in a bunch of internet memes. I saw one just the other day about, the picking on one person in the class and then no one stands up, and then we're comparing that to, well, that's how it started in Nazi Germany. And that's kind of stuff that I think similarly to your outreach on Facebook. I've always been one to not kind of really sit back and let some of that stuff happen. And but yeah, other than that, I mean, I think it's tough to do this in a big way, to reach out and disturb the universe.
I think,
right.
I think obviously for most people, I think it's just because in most cases you just don't have that kind of reach.
Yeah.
You don't
Or
have
resources
or
whatever it
resources
is,
or like you just don't on a day-to-day basis encounter situations where it can be big.
Yeah.
Outside of you're like, oh, I want to assassinate this political leader, which I'm not supporting.
We do not
that
advocate that. Nope.
But yeah, like it just most of the time you don't have like I think maybe most universe disturbance happens at the sort of the smaller
small scale,
level
yeah.
until
The cumulative
it could
effect,
accumulate. Yeah. Sort of what Jerry tried to almost, well, not that he tried to, but it almost happened.
Yeah, starting the movement, right?
Yeah.
It starts with one small disturbance and builds from there. So,
how do you feel about how Brother Leon treats Bailey? At the end of the class, Brother Leon says that the students
I haven't read the questions.
Yeah.
We've just been kind of out ahead of them here.
Yeah. Brother Leon says that the students have allowed him to turn the class into Nazi Germany. Do you think the statement is true?
Well, I mean, I think, we discussed this before, and I think that Brother Leon kind of uses that as an out, realizing he's maybe, stepped out of line a little bit with Bailey. Because Brother Leon certainly seems like a very tyrannical type person who is going to abuse his power and, kind of akin to Archie in a way in terms of manipulating and trying to put students in their place and that kind of thing. And I think he goes a little too far and reins it in with a quote unquote lesson about Nazi Germany. Right. So, I mean, certainly he's not treating Bailey very well. Someone does kind of stand up for him. Someone shouts something from the back of the class, and it kind of breaks the tension. And I think he realizes, I maybe crossed the line here. So he comes up with the Nazi Germany thing there. But yeah, I mean, I don't think that was his intent to provide that lesson. We don't even know what the class is. Presumably it's not the history of war.
Right.
Like it's potentially some other class. I can't remember if we know what Brother Leon teaches or not, but I mean, it was probably math or something.
Yeah, exactly.
And he's like, Nazi Germany lesson. I just think it was kind of an out. Although, I think the lesson of not speaking out is certainly valuable anytime you kind of learn it, but I don't think that was the intention, but behind his treatment of Bailey.
Do you think so? We've run the course of the questions in the back of the book.
No more there.
Do you think that there is a reading of this book that gives you a more positive outlook on the end?
I don't know. I mean, we've gone through this a few times here, and about the central question being, do I dare disturb the universe? And the answer being no. I mean, we talked a little bit about, what might be in the Beyond the Chocolate War book. And if that kind of maybe
balances
changes it or provides more clarity on that. But I think in general, I mean, there's some hope I think that can be taken out of the fact that, Jerry inadvertently kind of starts a movement. Yes, it is quashed, but the fact that he did choose to try to disturb the universe at the start, and it did have that consequence, I think there's, a spark of hope there, right? Things could have potentially gone a different way if that movement had built enough.
Yeah.
But I think ultimately there's, we see how it ends. It ends in disaster, kind of all around.
Yeah.
And with authority triumphing. So yeah, I don't know. Do you think there's a way to take much other positive out of this?
I mean, I think if we allow Jerry's words at the end to just sort of be the instinctive reaction to what just happened to him at that moment,
just be a physical response.
He's in a lot of pain. Yeah. He's, it is the culmination of everything that happened before. But I think even then, you can look at the fact that you straight through until the end, you refused to back down. I think maybe too, like, did he ever, like, outside of just seeing how far he could take it, did he ever have a really good reason to not sell the chocolates? Like,
Not really.
you
No.
know,
No.
I mean, maybe the lesson is don't disturb the universe unless it's really important. Don't.
Unless there's something to the conviction.
Yeah, I don't know. It's
Yeah.
I feel like the fact that he never gave up
Yes.
is meaningful.
Sure. And I suppose there's a bit of better to have tried and failed than to never have tried at all type sentiment.
Yeah, I
put
think
there, but
as a reader, you have to maybe dig past his final words as being kind of what anybody might say at that point. Like, it feels like we're all going to have a breaking point somewhere if we're trying to push back against authority.
Yeah.
There is a point in time where, like, unless we have enough support from people, like in the middle of the book where other people were refusing to sell the chocolates, when it's you against the universe,
the whole system,
it is ultimately you are going to lose. I don't think there's any way to win. But he never gave up either. So I think maybe that and it's interesting to think about, because I do think that the book kind of, at least on its own, can be and should be judged on its own merit, like just what's there. Because it's not like it was written, as far as I know, with the intention
of having,
because the sequel I think came 10 plus years later.
9 years after.
So it was more like the author was reflecting on the story and maybe found another way in, maybe had some regrets about the message at the end. And at that point sort of decided that a follow-up was worth pursuing. But prior to that, I think the book needs to be judged on what is just there in the book.
I guess anyone who, like you're saying, comes up against the system or up against the universe and is defeated time after time, in however many skirmishes happen, may have a moment of doubt, right? And maybe that's all this is for Jerry. He's
a moment of
doubt, right? And he's going, don't disturb the universe. What was I thinking? But perhaps a few days of convalescence, of calm
it's
after
long
the storm,
night of the soul moment.
Maybe he starts to realize that the doubt wasn't warranted, and he will continue to disturb the universe. Who knows? But it's tough. I mean, if you're an eternal optimist, you can take some of these out of the book and go like, he stood for what he believed in, even though it was kind of a spur of the moment type thing. But he didn't give up. And we know, I mean, from the very first chapter in the book, the kid has perseverance kind of baked into him.
Exactly.
But I mean, the striving and failing and the answer to, you shouldn't disturb the universe. It's tough to take a lot of positive out of that.
But I think what you said too is true, that I think maybe it depends to an extent what you bring into the book yourself. Whereas if you're going to be somebody who's inclined to not push against the universe, you'll be like, okay, I get it. Whereas, someone like me is going to look at the book and like look for ways that you can turn it to where's the positive in this? Where is the, like, let's not completely give up on disturbing the universe. Where can we find that in the text somewhere?
If I ever see that poster, I'm gonna get one.
I've never even thought about Googling.
Wonder if they still make those.
Maybe I'd like to think so. Robert Cormier should be selling them on his
exactly.
Should have an Etsy store or something.
That's right.
Do you want to talk about the movie a little bit?
So I watched the movie, and I
do you want some information about the movie?
Sure. If you want to bring it up, sure. I know you mentioned, the director was he
was an actor.
He was an actor turned director.
He also adapted, apparently, I thought this was worth mentioning, a Kurt Vonnegut novel.
Oh, really?
Called Mother Night.
Okay.
So we've, of course, talked about Kurt Vonnegut on this podcast.
I will say that I didn't enjoy the movie as much as I hoped I would.
Okay.
It's very much shot in the style of like filming a play almost.
Okay.
Like the scenes are very like just dry and performative. It's very much like, they rehearsed a play and then, 2 days later filmed it. That's the vibe that I got from the film as a whole.
Right.
And the ending is completely changed. So this is the big thing.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I know I didn't want to talk about this before we got into this, because this is kind of a thing that caught me a little by surprise. So, I mean, I think it sticks pretty close to the book. Obviously there's some things cut out and that kind of stuff, but it sticks relatively close to the book, in terms of, some of the key scenes and that kind of thing. They may be a little bit out of order. A couple scenes are kind of combined into one. But the ending, so, we get to this fight, right, between Jerry and Janza, right? In the book, there is a twist that gets thrown in by Obi and Carter, where they bring out the box with
right.
the marbles, right? So if he picks the black marble, or is it a bunch of black and he picks the white one?
I think it's a bunch of white and one black.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah. So if he picks that marble, then he has to do the assignment. This is the check on the absolute power of the assigner that the Vigils have throughout the book.
Yeah.
In the book, Archie once again picks the white marble. He's safe.
He picks it twice.
Yeah,
because he has to draw for each of the
exactly.
Of the battle.
So in the book, he picks that and is safe. The fight goes on,
and I do want to cut in there for a second, because I back to sort of talking about whether or not there's the larger meaning of the book and whether there's anything positive there. When that came up with the marbles, when I was reading it, there was a part of me that was convinced that he was going to pull the black marble, right?
Well, I remember at the end of the first episode we did, that was one of the things as we thought about what the rest of the book might contain. Yeah.
And a lot of times that's why those sorts of things get brought up, is it's a foreshadowing of something's going to, and it was foreshadowing that they would come up again, but not foreshadowing that it would work against him.
Yeah.
And I feel like that, again, that's that a whole sort of message of when you choose to disturb the universe, sometimes like all the dice come up in the universe's favor.
Yeah. Yep.
Like even that, where it felt like as a reader, you're expecting that's where the tables will be turned. And it's like, no, not this time.
Yeah.
You're still fucked.
Yeah.
Sorry, back to the movie.
Yeah. So the movie version, things go differently for Archie.
Really?
He picks the black marble.
Okay.
And has to get into the fight with Jerry. And now we know Archie's not a fighter per se, right? So as things devolve, Archie gets beat up by Jerry. So it's just, it's just kind of wild based on what the book is really kind of putting out there, right, in terms of disturbing the universe. So Jerry, wins the fight. He pummels Archie. And then Jerry does have a little bit of this kind of monologue, again, very much done in this play style, where he kind of brings up some of the thoughts that are in the book. But I mean, he's the victor in the fight, so it's a little weird. Yeah, it's a little weird and strange.
Weird.
It's like this, spotlight on him in the boxing ring, and he delivers this soliloquy kind of. So I think trying to get some of the points of the book across, but even though they've completely changed the ending, Archie is beat up, and then the final scene, which in the book is Archie and Obi just kind of going their separate ways, and things are back to normal. The universe is at peace. In the movie, the final scene is Obi is now the assigner, and Archie is having to take the notes in the book because he's been put in his place or demoted or whatever it is, right? So it's just a very strange take on what the meaning of the book was.
Very much like that flips the ending completely.
Yeah, and it very much, in my mind, again, I will say that the film, like I said, is very much gives the vibe of a play being recorded on film. Yeah. So it's pretty stiff in terms of just kind of watching through the movie. But I will say it just gives you the feeling that whoever made this film almost missed the point of the book entirely by the way they changed the ending.
Well, it was definitely somebody who I think read the ending and was like, "This is a downer."
Yeah.
Can we make this ending like? Can we have the answer to do I disturb the universe be yes,
Yeah.
and it rocks because you win.
Yeah.
Because that's completely.
Yeah. It's wonky.
I feel like now I wish I had known that prior, so I could have found out whether or not there's any like what Robert Cormier's thoughts were on the change of the ending, because that completely flips it.
It flips it. Yeah.
I feel like he would be
Archie now
by
being the secretary and Obi, like it's wonky.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah. I mean, definitely when we look at what is happening in the book, right, in terms of the universe being, the steady hand or winning the vast majority of kind of these little battles, or the status quo being essentially immovable.
Mm-hmm.
The view in the movie is definitely the opposite, right? That you can rage against the machine and it'll work out for you, that you can take the battle forward, and there's hope at the end, that you can be victorious, and that the villain, quote unquote, of Archie will get put in his place, right? That things will be brighter or be different after going through this fight. So definitely very much in the vein of there is hope to be had, and that the answer to should you disturb the universe or do you dare is yes.
Right.
Very much different from what we saw in the book. So, but I will say, I mean, just as far as a movie goes, it's not a great watch, like it's pretty stiff.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And I'm less inclined to watch it now, knowing what the ending is, because
I'm sorry, spoiler alert.
No, I'm glad I know. I just think it's funny because, like, on the one hand, I do feel like the ending of the book is pretty depressing, but I don't know if that happier ending jives with me more. It does make me, reflect more on the ending again and come away with maybe the answer is yes, but make sure you're strong enough to handle it.
Yeah.
Certainly a more complex ending in the book.
Yeah, I think if you haven't read the book and you just watch the movie, you would maybe go like, oh, okay, like it's pretty standard kind of Hollywoodish type story,
right?
Of boy kind of rages against the system and comes out ahead in the end, right? Whereas the book is certainly a lot more complex.
Yeah,
and I think for as much as we maybe poked a little bit about the answer to the question being no, don't disturb the universe, the questions that bring up versus everything will be fine.
It's a more interesting conversation.
Exactly.
So for sure.
That is the movie in a nutshell. Not the greatest movie. Certainly has the feel of like a Coronation Street TV show almost kind of thing, right? But
I think it had a budget of like $300,000.
Yeah, I think you can tell.
$500,000.
I think you can tell when you watch it.
Only grossed $303,000, so it was a flop.
Yeah, and I think I know why.
It's got a 7 out of 10 on or 85% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Well, I think those are people that haven't read the book.
Could be, could very well be.
But yeah, I mean, if you have the time and are curious on checking it out, you could probably just skip to the end and kind of watch through that, because the rest of it is pretty close to the book, or close enough that there's nothing really major to worry about.
And the book, you would say, is definitely the optimal way to experience the story.
Yeah, for sure. Sorry, I just thought of one other little change. Like, he ends up, like, the girl that accosts him ends up kind of like making out with him a little bit. And,
the hippie girl?
Yeah. Like, there's a few little things where it's like, that doesn't jive with like so there's just a few little things, but the ending was the big kind of change where you're like, what? Like, that's
interesting.
And
it is a pretty short book, so like if you're interested in the story, it's like fucking 200
it's a couple hundred pages, right? Like,
just read it, man.
Just read the book.
Just read the book.
And it's a good book. Like, it's very well written.
It is,
and maybe it's from a different time for sure, because there's a little bit of like homophobic stuff in there.
True,
probably we don't see as much at schools these days, but it certainly gets you into the mind of a teenage boy. very convincingly, as well as just the myriad of like side characters that get thrown into the book. That even though they're a flash in the pan in the book, they come off as pretty genuine, high school characters. That run kind of the gamut of the guy who's relaxing on the corner versus the nervous kid who doesn't know how to do the sale. Like there's quite the whether they're have one page or 3 or 4 pages or a whole chapter, the side characters are pretty well rounded and
borrowing money from the chocolate sale to buy a gift
right?
for his girlfriend so he can get to second base.
That's right. Yeah. So there's just a pretty good group of kind of high school students, again from maybe a bit of a different time, but it's I think very well captured in that sense what that period of time is like for a young lad.
And I personally appreciate having a young adult novel that is sort of this morally complex, without an easy kind of answer at the end where everything works out. And I think it would have been interesting to have
and
classroom discussions.
I think some of the stuff that some of the reasons this book is banned are really some also reasons that teenagers, certainly in kind of high school, should read this book, right? Like the talk about, I found the nudie magazine and wanted to look at it, and what to do with these feelings of I want to masturbate or whatever. Like this is all stuff that these kids are going through, right? It's super relevant, and to like ban it for that when it's not there for,
it's not being salacious. It's not.
It's not there for titillation or anything. Like this is honest to goodness. These kids are feeling this, and this is how their social groups work and that kind of stuff, right? And like it's very true to life.
It's not, to me. It's not like the sexuality of the book is like a huge part of the story. It's just sort of like side ways of fleshing out characters. Like it's never that big a deal, outside of like it's the backdrop, but for example of one scene where these two characters are like ogling this girl down the street while they're talking about how their chocolate sales are going on.
Exactly. I think it's a shade of realism.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Right. For this world, you got this repressed New Englandish boys' school, Catholic boys' school. Like, what else are they going to be talking about? I mean, this is what forms a big chunk of their conversation. We talked about the purpose of girls in the book, whether it's just this ideal that these guys are thinking about or a real tangible girl. I mean, it permeates their whole teenage, pubescent kind of world, right?
Yeah. And I think, speaking of that and sort of looking at that question a little more deeply, there is this idea that in general at that age, girls almost seem like this kind of unreachable, unattainable kind of ideal. And when you have it set like in this Catholic school where there just literally are no girls around, that emphasizes that unreachable, unattainable thing even more so, right? Because you're not mingling with them. They're almost mythical. Right.
They go to a whole separate
school. You occasionally see one at the bus stop. But the only way to find out her name is like through stealth and
secretly looking at her binder and
So I don't know where do we want to go from here?
I mean, I don't know if there's too much more to chat about, aside from potentially, at some point maybe looking at what Beyond the Chocolate War has to offer around this. Because we talked about the central question of this book and the answer, as well as the aspects of it that are, potentially more hopeful or, some positive spin on it. But when we, talk about where Jerry's at in life, right? He's a freshman. Yes, he's been beaten down, but he still has, 3 more years of high school to either continue to rage against the system or disturb the universe, or conform or learn how to maybe straddle that line in life. Right. So, there's a lot still to be said, I think, about how this experience and dealing with authority and secret societies and, the mob mentality of the school and how all of that comes together versus one person, daring to disturb the universe or not. I think there's still a lot to be said on that, and it'd be interesting to kind of see where Robert Cormier takes that story. But yeah, as far as the book goes, I think we've covered, pretty much everything in here. Some of the highlights, I think, we could go through in terms of things that stick out. A couple things for me. It's called The Chocolate War. We only ever really talk about chocolates in a kind of general sense, as kind of a, this thing that is happening.
It's almost like it is so metaphorical of that struggle that the details of the chocolates are secondary.
Exactly. There's only one scene where anyone even eats a chocolate. And it's Archie who eats it. But other than that, like we don't interact or see chocolate at all.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So it is this more metaphorical type of thing. The whole kind of scenario with Archie having this fake leverage over Janza with a picture of him masturbating in the bathroom. That to me is, there's certainly negative aspects of it, and we see kind of some of the nastiness a little bit of Archie's personality in terms of that manipulation and wanting to control someone just, without even a real goal at the start. But there's also a bit of humor in that, in the sense of like, that's a funny situation. It's potentially on film. Like, that to me is something.
I think it also helps sort of show the two sides of sex in adolescence, where on the one hand, it's something that everyone is thinking about and obsessed with, but there's also
the taboo and
there's this shame around it.
Yeah, exactly. Certainly at a Catholic school.
Right? Oh, absolutely.
Around it. But yeah, it's just, I think there's some humor and comedy in that as well as the, kind of darkness to it. But,
absolutely.
That was, and not to say that Archie is, an ideal person or anything like that, but that one was kind of humorous to me, and certainly something that I think would have been potentially funny to see in film, which they kind of dance around that in the movie as well.
Nobody wants to show kids masturbating in movies anymore.
No, I don't think they did even in the 70s and 80s. I think the movie was made in the 80s.
Exactly.
So yeah,
it was 1988, I think.
Yeah.
So the description of Beyond the Chocolate War at Goodreads, this is the description. The school year is almost at an end, and the chocolate sale is past history. But no one at Trinity School can forget the Chocolate War. Devious Archie Costello, commander of the secret school organization called the Vigils, still has some torturous assignments to hand out before he graduates. In spite of this pleasure, Archie is troubled by his right-hand man, Obi, who has started to move away from the Vigils. Luckily, Archie knows his stooges will fix that, but won't Archie be shocked when he discovers the surprise Obi has waiting for him? And there are surprises waiting for others. The time for revenge has come to those boys who secretly suffered the trials of Trinity. The fuse is set for the final explosion. Who will survive?
Okay. Well, I think that kind of explains why the ending was maybe changed in the film. If that, if we can read between the lines of that description, it sounds like Archie might be getting his comeuppance in the second book.
Oh, and so you think they were maybe trying to sort of follow
kind
a
of
little bit more,
yeah.
Because the book that did come
in 85.
So. In 85, yeah. All right, so they could have been incorporating that.
Yeah.
And it is worth noting that Beyond the Chocolate War has been banned apparently once. In 2023, it was banned in Clay County District Schools in Florida. So we could talk about it somewhere down the road.
Yeah, you never know.
It's about the same length, 253 pages. So yeah, we'll see.
Yeah,
I am personally
certainly not
as
well known.
No,
Chocolate War. I don't remember covering it at all in school at all, but
either of them or
either of them. Yeah. I mean, I think the Chocolate War is really the only one I'd ever heard of.
Yeah,
I don't remember hearing about.
And I don't really remember hearing about it when I was in school.
I vaguely, or maybe it was university. I don't know, but certainly I it crossed my radar. I never read it back
Mhm.
then, but it crossed my radar at some point. And I don't know if it's ever been part of any curriculum at a high school level. Probably,
Oh, it probably has.
university, for sure.
Oh, I
but
would expect probably some high
some
school
high school
curriculums.
somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't remember hearing about it until I was older and was like actually looking into banned books. And then I was just like, how can a book about students selling chocolates
Be bad.
be that controversial? Like, what is going on here?
Yeah.
Um,
And it's not really.
it's
that's the
not
thing.
really. That's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah, a few mentions of masturbation and stuff, and there's some violence,
Anti-authority,
I mean,
anti-religion to a certain extent.
Yeah, I mean, you get all of that in so many other books that are less.
But that's the case too with a lot of books, is that they're banned for really, like, just the fact that Harry Potter is top in the list of things that have been banned. I mean, I'm okay with like banning fucking J.K. Rowling shit. Not banning necessarily, like, I don't know. But like I'm fine with people choosing not to read that.
Yeah.
But like the content of Harry Potter is so tame, really.
It really is. I mean, it's safe to read for any kid, no matter the age, really. Certainly from a language perspective.
Yeah.
But I think
the argument that like, oh, it's teaching kids about magic is a little bit
I think the
bonkers.
argument, really why it's banned is because the Malfoys, being like the rich kind of white family, get taken down throughout the book. I think that's probably why it's been. No, I'm just
okay. I mean, you could be right. We have theorized.
It's very anti-billionaire.
We have theorized in the past that what the ban is about on the surface, what they claim, may not actually be what's going on.
That's true.
Yeah. So rating.
So I've been kind of thinking about this, because I think the book is really well done, but as we've discussed, the answer to the question, I mean, I think points for being complex and kind of providing more questions than answers, really. But also, I think when you first get to the climax and the denouement of the book, I think the first response for both of us was a bit of disappointment.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right, with what the answer to the question was in the book. So I think for that reason, despite how well written and kind of realistic the experience is through the book, I think I'm only going to give it 4 old Mother's Day chocolate boxes out of 5.
Wow, I was thinking you were going to go for a 3.5.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of stay in one range.
I
kind of stay in one range.
You have one speed, and that is 4 out of 5.
I have 4 or 4.5 or 3.5. That's pretty much where I like to sit.
Yeah. Okay, that's funny because I was prepared to, like, for my rating of 4
You're
to be a step above yours, because I do feel like, since we've been talking about it, I do feel like I'm more at terms with the ending. At this more sort of the more complex ideas of asking yourself, is this disturbance of the universe worth it? Do I have the strength to carry it through? Which
is my cause important enough? Right.
And I think you do need to sort of look at it through that kind of a lens. Otherwise, it is just very, do I dare disturb the universe? No. Fuck, that's depressing. So you do need to sort of do some reading into it and to find some more complexity to the conversation, because the book, I don't think on its surface leads you there, and that's okay. I think the book doesn't have to always tell you how to have the conversation.
You don't need your hand held, for sure, and sometimes that's kind of patronizing, right? So
exactly.
And I get that, and I think that's why I kind of went more into the 4 versus 3.5. But I mean, who wants any stale Mother's Day chocolates, really?
Well, I mean, I'm giving it 4 stale Mother's Day chocolates out of 5.
Nice.
Yeah,
nice.
4.
You sound like you're more like a 4.25.
Yeah, maybe it is a 4.25 if you want to like really.
I might be a 3.75. I don't know.
It's 4.
We're really getting nitpicky here.
4 illegal punches to the groin out of 5 for the Chocolate War. Yet another, I think, overall winner for the books that we've covered.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about some of the difficulties in reading some of the past few books, right?
Yes.
And this book it's well written, but it also is easily accessible,
Very.
right?
Yeah.
Versus well written books that are difficult to, whether from the time period or the language or what have you, difficult to kind of access and wrap your head around. This one's pretty straightforward, which does, I think, in the end help us start to grapple more with the central theme of the book versus it being really difficult to kind of access, and then we don't even kind of get the central theme of it. But yeah, I mean, this was a good read. It was fun. It was, being dudes that have gone through high school, pretty accessible for us.
Yeah.
At
Pretty
the end of
familiar
the
in some ways.
Yeah, a lot of things kind of like, oh yeah, I remember that. Being 14.
Never
15.
masturbated in a school bathroom myself, but
No, not till much later. No, I'm just like,
I'm not even supposed to be in this school.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, lots of things that I think can take you back. I think if you're a female reader reading this book,
it would be an interesting
insights into the mind
of a teenage
of
boy.
a teenage boy, right? But yeah, very realistic.
Yeah.
Ultimately. So yeah, if there are any ladies out there that want to, and I will say that, I mean, we don't really mature much beyond this,
I suppose
as
not,
we
yeah.
age. So
Yeah.
this, if you're wondering what your boyfriend or husband is thinking,
is ultimately thinking.
I mean, you can read this book and be like, okay, I kind of,
you can extrapolate.
Yeah,
from
you
that.
can extrapolate from there. Yeah.
Do we want to talk about what we got coming up next?
Yeah, we can talk a little bit about. We got a couple things.
Things
on
planned.
the go.
So probably next episode we're going to be discussing a movie. I'm not going to get into specifics right now because it's still kind of in the planning stages, so it may not be happening next episode. Fingers crossed. Hopefully, it will. You'll find out more about that, and we will hopefully. God, I've got hiccups.
You got to drink more. That's the way. Pound a drink.
I'm gonna start again. We're gonna cover a movie, and we're gonna have a special guest on to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't want to give details on that because we're still setting up. But hopefully that will happen next episode.
Yeah.
Following that, we'll be back to books,
Mm-hmm.
and I think we landed on doing another one of sort of the great classic dystopian novels.
Yeah.
George Orwell's 1984.
Yeah.
Which I have not read since 1984.
I think. I think I would have read it in the 90s. But
yeah,
early 90s. Yeah.
I remember when I was in school, getting those Scholastic book order forms.
Yeah.
And I ordered a ton of books from those.
And it was on there?
It was on there.
Oh,
it was
awesome.
1984.
Nice.
They had, I would have been 11. Probably grade 7 or 8 around then. They had it was a special 1984 anniversary edition of the book.
Oh, cool.
But I think I was probably too young to really properly get everything out of the story.
Yeah. I think I might have been as well. I mean, I read it pretty young as well. I read that and Animal Farm, I think, back to back.
Right.
I think I picked them both up at the same time or something like that. And yeah, I mean, there's so much allegory and stuff going on as a kid.
Yeah.
Tough, right? To really sink your teeth into. But I'm excited to go through it again.
I am too.
Especially given where we're at. We just, we talked a little bit about AI just today.
Yep.
And kind of, singularity and stuff like that. Some of this stuff is, more relevant now than it has been.
Absolutely.
So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm stoked about that. And then further down the road, we are gradually, I think this is the 78th episode, this one that we're live on right now. So
yeah, I think that's right.
22 episodes down the road, which is maybe a year and a half. We do intend to be doing Fahrenheit 451 on or around our 100th episode. That's going to be our
Mr. Bradbury,
our celebratory book.
Yeah.
We're going to do a banned book about banning books on the Banned Book podcast.
Yeah.
We're going to try to go as meta as possible. And then maybe we'll even push to get those episodes banned so that we can have a banned episode about meta. Banned books, about a banned book, about banning books.
Yeah. I like that.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
If anyone wants to help, you can also push to get those things pulled off
just that
podcast.
episode.
Just those episodes. Yeah. And then, yeah.
How do we want to do that where we lead up to the live episode for that being the 100th? Or
possibly. I think
I know we've just kind of discussed how it would be nice, but
I think the tricky thing there is that means basically being very conscious about the choices that we make from now to then to make sure that every book has the right number of like episodes, which we could do.
I think we just have to worry about it when we get to the mid 90s. Episode count, right?
Yes, possibly. Yeah. Even like early 90s, as far as like, do we do like 1, 2, 3? How do we break these episodes down in order to get to? And I don't even know. I guess we should be aware of like how many pages Fahrenheit 451 is.
I don't think it's.
I would be surprised if it was like any more than like 250.
Again, another book that I think I read around the same time as 1984.
I have no idea how to spell Fahrenheit.
It's, according to Nate Bargatze, it's impossible to spell.
Did you know? I Googled this today because I was curious about why we have. It's 156 pages. Man, that's crazy short.
Yeah.
That
might just be
this might be
one
the live
episode.
Maybe we just do the live for that. Man, that'd be ideal. I was Googling why we have Fahrenheit and Celsius, and how like Fahrenheit started as like, it was like 0 being freezing, and then 96 degrees being the temperature of the human body. Then somebody else came along and was like, nah, let's make freezing 32 degrees.
Just within the Fahrenheit.
Just within Fahrenheit.
Okay.
And let's make the body temperature like 92.6.
Huh.
And it's like, why did you land on those numbers?
Yeah.
And also is based on a salty water brine, the freezing temperature of that, not regular water, salty water brine. And then when Celsius was invented, originally 0 degrees was the boiling point, and 100 degrees was the freezing point. So it went backwards. Wow. The temperature went up as it got colder.
Weird.
Then somebody else came up and was like, you're a fucking idiot.
Yeah.
Just reversed it. It's it's sometimes fun to like research with a history of some of these measurement systems, especially the ones that are just like bonkers.
Yeah. That's crazy.
But I also remember learning that like there is or was like a museum or something where like they stored like the stick that defines exactly how long a meter is.
Yeah. It's in France, isn't it?
I'm not sure. That's a good question. But I know that they're moving away from having actual physical objects and they're replacing it with mathematical formulas, right?
Okay.
Because they've since discovered that these sticks gradually degrade, like atom by atom, day by day. It's not a lot, but over time, it's going to start to, So things that you don't really think about, Otherwise, you could just be totally gaslit about what a meter is.
Yeah. It gets shorter every year. But I will say, Fahrenheit 451, right, being the temperature in Fahrenheit nowadays anyway, where wood,
you bake a lasagna,
wood will combust.
Right.
Yeah. Which is the significance of the burning books.
Right.
I will say, if you've ever done any baking with like parchment paper or anything like that,
it's got to be under 450.
At 420
Fahrenheit
is kind of where things start to
shit.
Yeah. So I mean, that could just be because it's a different type of a paper product versus just like wood.
Here I assumed Ray Bradbury was like burning his library at different temperatures until he got to the exact right one.
Figured it out.
Yeah.
I mean, it also could depend, as most things do, on elevation and, barometric pressure and all
moisture
that
content,
kind of stuff, right?
Humidity.
And parchment paper, I mean, it does have other, it has wax in it, right? Which is a carbon-based, thing that you can.
Some books might have different kinds of paper.
Yeah, exactly, right? Some books might not burn right? If they got at that particular temperature, if they're a little bit different, right? So, but yeah, generally,
We're going to do our own experiments prior to.
Well, that's kind of why I brought it up. Is I was thinking maybe we do put something in the oven and see, like, get like a few kind of get a
find out what
hardcover and a paperback.
What temperature Donald Trump's Art of the Deal will combust at?
Yeah, exactly. Paperback versus hardcover, which one burns faster? That we could do some real experiments.
That is true. That is true.
We could become firemen.
We do need to play with some of that stuff, like how we talked about building or baking
the pound cake.
Baking the pound cake. Exactly.
I still kind of want to try that.
I know, right?
I have a feeling it won't be great, but I'd like to try it.
Well, you gotta, yeah. I mean, pound cake isn't bad. Stale pound cake is still pound cake. You just gotta dunk it.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. I think that's probably it for us.
Yeah.
For this episode.
Well, anybody? I don't see anybody online, so I don't think we're going to have anybody calling in. But yeah. Hopefully people will listen to this.
Yeah, if you're not listening live, then hopefully you're listening after.
You're going to miss the best bits because Todd's going to use AI to cut these out and put them on Patreon. No,
I'm going to get AI to cut out all of the sexy bits.
Yeah,
so we can ban ourselves from talking about masturbating in school toilets.
That's right.
Yeah. So I guess damn it.
Jumping the gun.
Well, I was just trying to get it queued up, but I forgot that it automatically plays. Podbean dashboard. I have been Todd Sullivan.
I've been Peter Ammon.
And until next time,
go read a fucking book.